Imagine getting a bill for $40,000.
Yeah.
Not for a car, not for a medical thing. This bill is for the privilege of, plugging your toaster into the wall.
This sounds like a mistake, like a clerical error you'd spend all afternoon on the phone trying to fix.
That's what you would hope. But for the residents of Altadena, California, it is very, very real. They survived a catastrophic wildfire. They fought the insurance companies, started rebuilding.
And then
they get the news. The power company is burying the lines to make things safer.
Yeah.
A victory, right. Until they open the mailbox.
And that mailbox moment is, I think, the perfect entry point for today's deep dive. It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, and we are looking at the aftermath of the Eaton Fire.
Which, just to remind everyone, devastated Los Angeles County just over a year ago.
Yeah. We're talking 19 people dead. Over 9,400 structures just gone. It was a tragedy on an epic scale.
But today we aren't just focusing on the flames, we are focusing on the invoice. We're going to unpack the aftermath of Southern California Edison's $925 million grid rebuild.
And the regulatory maze that allows for it, and, well, the absolute mess of lawsuits flying in every direction. It's a story about the messy, expensive reality of building back better.
Right.
We tend to think recovery is just sweeping up ash and pouring concrete. But what's happening in Altadena, it reveals this whole other battle over who pays for safety.
And looking at the research for this one, I have to say, I went from, oh, that's unfortunate, to, wait, how is this legal? Really, really fast.
It's a heavy topic. But the core question is pretty simple. When the grid breaks, who pays to fix it? And why does the fix sometimes feel like a second disaster?
So let's start with that win that wasn't a win, the undergrounding. Immediately after the fire, burying the power lines was the rallying cry. Everyone wanted it. You had people like Connor Cipolla from the Altadena Town Council leading the charge.
And it makes perfect sense. If the lines are underground, the wind can't knock them down. No sparks, no fire.
Yeah.
In the utility world, undergrounding is the gold standard for wildfire mitigation.
That's also the most expensive.
By far. And usually, when a utility does a big infrastructure upgrade like that, the cost is spread out among all ratepayers. You, me, everyone in the service area pays a few extra cents on their bill.
That's how I assumed it worked. Southern California Edison SCE, they pay to dig the trench under the street.
And they do. That main line, the one under the asphalt, SCE covers that. That's their capital investment. But here's where the blind side happens. It's a little thing called Rule 20.
Rule 20, that sounds like something out of a dystopian novel.
It might as well be. It's a tariff rule from the California Public Utilities Commission. And, historically, it was designed for aesthetics, for communities that wanted to bury lines just to make the neighborhood look nicer.
So not for disaster recovery.
No. And the rule says that while the utility pays for the work in the street, the property owner is responsible for the lateral.
The lateral. Okay, break that down.
That's the physical connection. It's the wire that runs from that main line of the street to the electric meter on the side of your house.
So you have to dig up your own front yard.
You have to dig a trench, lay conduit, maybe upgrade your panel. And that's where this $20,000 to $40,000 figure comes from.
Wow.
Residents are getting estimates right in that range.
But wait a minute. This wasn't a vanity project. This wasn't some HOA deciding they didn't like the look of telephone poles. This was a disaster. Doesn't that change the rule?
You would think so, but no. Strictly speaking, the tariff doesn't care why the lines are being buried. So you have people rebuilding their homes, stretching every single dollar.
And then, bam, a bill for the price of a new car just to get your lights on.
Exactly.
And let me guess, insurance doesn't cover this.
Generally, no. Insurance covers fire damage. This is considered a grid upgrade or a connection fee. It's not damage in the eyes of the policy.
That is just brutal. So you have people feeling, as Connor Cipolla said, blindsided. And what's Edison saying? Rules are rules.
They're saying they are exploring FEMA grants. But, exploring doesn't pay the contractor who's standing in your driveway.
Right. It feels like a shakedown. Nice house you've got there. Shame if it didn't have any electricity. But here's the thing that confuses me. If this is so expensive for everyone involved, why is Edison pushing it so hard?
That is the $925 million question.
Because there has to be another way, right? You don't have to bury lines to make them safer. I've seen those insulated wires.
Covered conductors, yes. You can wrap the overhead wires in protective layers. A tree branch hits them, they don't spark. It's much safer than bare wire, and you don't have to dig up the whole town.
So is it cynical to say there's more to this than just safety? Maybe they're just trying to be the most cautious utility on Earth.
It's not cynical, it's structural. You have to look at how a regulated monopoly makes its money. It's not like a normal business. Utilities make a guaranteed rate of return on their capital expenditures.
Capital expenditures or CapEx. We've talked about this before, but that's just spending money on building stuff.
Exactly. Infrastructure, poles, wires, trenches. The regulators let them earn a profit, usually around 10% on the value of whatever they build.
Okay, so let me do the math here. If they use the insulated wires, the covered conductors, that's cheaper.
Much cheaper. Under $1 million a mile.
And undergrounding.
We're talking $3 to $6 million a mile.
So if I'm the utility and I get a 10% return on whatever I spend, I would much rather spend $6 million than $1 million.
Precisely. The incentive structure is built to encourage the most expensive solution.
That is wild. This is what consumer groups call gold plating, right?
That's the term. The argument is that SCE is choosing this massive $925 million plan, not just for safety, but because it's projected to earn their shareholders over $70 million in profit.
$70 million in the first year alone.
In the first year. So while the homeowner is sweating a $40,000 bill, the utility is looking at a massive guaranteed payday because the project is so expensive.
It really complicates the safety-first narrative. It's more like safety first as long as it's the most profitable kind of safety.
And it's not just the money. The digging is causing a whole other war in Altadena over the trees.
Oh, right. The urban forest. These are ancient trees that survived the fire.
Massive deodar cedars, old oaks. And now crews are coming in to dig trenches right through their root systems.
I loved that story about Robert Steller. He saw the spray paint marking the trench line near his trees.
And he just parked his Toyota 4Runner right on top of the mark, left it there for a week. A literal physical standoff.
You want to dig? You have to move my truck first. It just highlights the total distrust.
It does. But if we zoom out from the individual streets, there's an even bigger economic crater here. We've been talking about homeowners. What about the businesses?
Yeah, that's the part of recovery that gets overlooked.
The economic loss from the Eaton Fire is estimated somewhere between $24 and $42 billion.
Billion with a B. That is a staggering number.
It is. And a huge piece of that falls on small businesses. Nearly 1,900 of them were destroyed or displaced. But displaced is such a clinical word.
Right. It means your customers are gone. If thousands of people lose their homes, they aren't stopping by the local pet store.
Steve's Pet Store is the heartbreaking example. The fire didn't just hurt the business, it killed the animals inside. They lost 65 animals.
I read about the 40-year-old parrot. That's like losing a family member.
It is. And the owner, she tried to keep going, but eventually had to close. She just said, no one lives there. Mentally, I'm not there. The emotional and economic weight was just too much.
And yet some places are fighting their way back. You look at Webster's Community Pharmacy.
They survived the fire, but then got hit by bureaucracy, closed for a month over permits and water issues. But they reopened.
Fox's Restaurant, too. And the Altadena grocery outlet, they put up that banner, "We will rebuild."
The grocery outlet became a hub for the Red Cross, a staging ground for the recovery.
But here's what worries me. I'm looking at how these businesses survived, and it wasn't some robust government bailout.
No, it was charity.
We're talking $10,000 grants from DoorDash, checks from Paris Hilton's foundation, GoFundMe campaigns.
It's a patchwork safety net. And, frankly, it's not sustainable. You can't rebuild a $42 billion hole in the economy with $10,000 grants from delivery apps.
It's great that they help, but it's terrifying that they have to. It implies the whole insurance system is broken.
And in many ways, it is. Business interruption insurance is notoriously hard to claim in these big disasters. If your building is fine but your customers can't get to you, a lot of policies just say, tough luck.
So you have homeowners fighting trench bills, businesses surviving on charity, and meanwhile, everyone is suing everyone.
Welcome to the legal swamp.
Let's wade in. The cause of the fire is still officially under investigation, but the lawsuits all allege it was SCE's equipment in Eaton Canyon.
But SCE isn't just playing defense. They went on the offensive. They sued Los Angeles County.
They sued the county.
The county and the local water agencies. It's a strategy to spread the liability. They're basically arguing, okay, maybe our equipment sparked it, but if the county had cleared the brush or if the water pressure was higher, it wouldn't have been so bad.
So they're trying to pass the buck to taxpayers. If the county pays, it's tax money. If SCE pays, it's ratepayer money. Either way, we pay. That's the reality. But there's a specific legal concept in California that makes this all so high stakes. It's called inverse condemnation.
I've seen that term. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. Imagine you're driving your car perfectly safely, following all the laws. Suddenly, a wheel falls off because of a manufacturing defect and it hits someone's fence.
Okay.
In most places, you're not liable. You weren't negligent. But under inverse condemnation, if you're a utility, you are liable just because it was your wheel.
So even if SCE followed every single safety rule, if their wire started that fire, they are on the hook for all the damages.
Correct. It's a strict liability standard. And since the damages are in the billions, SCE is terrified, which is why they're suing the county, and it's why they rolled out this Wildfire Recovery Compensation Program.
Ah, the fast pay option. Here's the check right now. Sounds good, all right? It sounds great if you're desperate, but the catch is huge. To get the money, you have to sign a full release, waiving your right to sue for anything else later. That includes punitive damages.
So if it comes out later that SCE knew a piece of equipment was faulty and did nothing, you're out of luck because you took that quick 10 grand.
Exactly. And we're hearing the offers are insultingly low, like $10,000 for smoke damage that costs $150,000 to actually clean. It forces victims into a terrible gamble.
Okay, there's one last piece of this legal puzzle, Senate Bill 254. This one seems to be about financial vultures.
That's a good way to put it. Hedge funds.
How do hedge funds get involved in a wildfire?
So after a fire, your insurance company pays your claim. Once they pay you, they get the right to sue the utility to get that money back. It's called a subrogation claim.
Okay, so State Farm pays me, then State Farm sues SCE.
Right. But that lawsuit takes years. Insurance companies want cash now, so they often sell that right to sue to a hedge fund for, say, 50 cents on the dollar.
And the hedge fund then goes after the utility for the full amount.
Trying to make a massive profit. They add no value, fix nothing, but extract millions from the recovery. SB 254 tries to stop this. It gives the utilities the right of first refusal.
It cuts out the middleman.
It cuts out the speculator. It's an attempt to keep the recovery money from flowing to Wall Street.
It's fascinating how disasters create their own little economy. You've got construction profits, legal settlements, hedge fund bets. It feels like the actual person who lost their home is the smallest piece of the puzzle.
That is exactly the feeling in Altadena. Limbo. Stuck between a grid they don't trust and a recovery system that treats them like a line item on a spreadsheet.
So why does this matter to someone who doesn't live in Altadena?
Because Altadena is just the test case.
Yeah.
This is the future for any community near a forest or wildland. As fires get more frequent, the cost of fixing the grid is going to skyrocket everywhere.
And we're seeing that the fix isn't a neutral choice.
No. If we rely on the current system, we're going to get the most expensive solutions pushed by utilities because it boosts their profits. And we're going to see ratepayers and victims footing the bill, one way or another.
It really makes you ask, is the goal of the recovery to make the community whole? Or is it to make the infrastructure profitable?
And if the answer is the latter, then the recovery process itself just becomes a secondary disaster. It's a slow-moving financial fire that burns long after the smoke is cleared.
Something to think about the next time you pay your electric bill. Are you paying for power, or are you paying for a business model that thrives on expensive disasters?
It's a question we all need to be asking.
A huge thank you to all of our sources for this deep dive, and thank you for listening. We'll be watching Altadena very closely.
Stay curious and stay safe.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.